Hi, welcome to the Home Expo Podcast. I'm Tammie Hartman, your host, and we connect homeowners with trusted home improvement specialists. We explore innovative ideas for designing, building, and enjoying your living spaces. Experts share practical advice on topics like eco-friendly building, smart technology, and energy savings. Today, we're diving into residential real estate to discuss finding or selling the perfect home. Today, our guest is Andrea Gordon, and she is a top producing realtor serving Oakland, Berkeley, and the San Francisco Bay Area right here in California since 1998. With a background as an artistic director and teacher, yeah, she's got a master's in theater arts. Her creative approach, client focus, and work ethic have made her highly respected. She's been named Realtor of the Year by the Oakland and Berkeley Association of Realtors, is a top producer at Compass, and was voted Reader's Choice Best Real Estate Agent in Oakland and the East Bay. Wow. That's awesome. Andrea also supports local arts and animal rescue. And as you may listen to this podcast, you might hear her puppy dog barking in the background or her bird enjoying the podcast as well. So we invite anybody who wants to listen to the podcast, doesn't matter if you're human or not, you're all welcome to listen. Welcome, Andrea. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be a part of the podcast. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I know I live in a menagerie. I have 3 little dogs, 2 cats, and 2 parrots. And one
Oh
of
my
my little
goodness.
parrots is in the room with me. He's a Pacific parrotlet. He's the same size as a hummingbird, by the way, but he makes a
Oh,
lot of noise because he enjoys voices. So sorry about that, folks.
oh my goodness. That's so cute. I'm sure we'll see a picture of him sometime throughout the podcast. Maybe he'll answer a question or two. So I wanted to ask you, like, how did you go from theater arts into real estate? That seems like it's a huge jump. Like, what happened?
It actually isn't, and I've actually written a book that talks about how analogous the skill sets are between theater and real estate.
Okay.
Think about it this way: when you're an actor or a director, you're constantly being interviewed for a job. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. You learn how to deal with rejection. You have to think on your feet. You have to improvise. You have to be able to articulate whatever it is you're feeling, seeing, doing. I think you can find these kinds of analogous things in any profession that leads into real estate. Most realtors who've been around for a long time didn't start out as realtors. Now it's like a college degree that you can get. And now there are young people coming up that decide when they're like 10 years old that they want to be realtors. But that never was the way that it was back when I started out. So
Mhm.
I became a realtor because of a failed production. Actually, I did a production of a play called Liverpool Fantasy
Okay.
at the Climate Theater in San Francisco, and it was all about the Beatles. They never wrote the hit single, they never became famous. And the play takes place in John's apartment when Paul Montana, as Paul McCartney became known as, is passing through on a bus and truck tour and meets up with his old mates. It was written by a wonderful writer named Larry Kirwan, who had a band called Black 47. He's Irish, and he he wrote this play, and it's sort of like It's a Wonderful Life. You know how
Mhm.
that is the story of what would have happened if life had been different. Well, we got rave reviews in the gay press, we got rave reviews in the small papers, but the main paper wrote the reviewer had to have stayed up all night long doing this because he wrote his review in rhyming couplets using all Beatles song titles to excoriate me and the play and how this could not have been written about the Beatles. And it was a very expensive production. I had borrowed money from everybody I knew to put it on, and it failed after that review came out because that was the main paper that people read.
Oh,
The audiences dwindled to nothing, and I was I knew that we had a gorgeous production. And so I was frustrated and angry and just kept running it.
Mhm.
And it was what they call an equity production where the actors were being paid union wages. So it was very expensive. And I
Wow.
just kept running it until I had to close it.
Mhm.
And at that point, I was in a world of financial hell and I had to figure out what to do. So I borrowed a suit from my sister, and using my acting skills, I basically lied myself into a high tech professional job and ended up in Sausalito with my own office and my own secretary. and I sold and I sold advertising for high tech professionals for a period of a year, and I paid back every single dime that I owed people. That was my goal. And the morning of the
Wow.
day when I knew I could do it, I went into the office of my boss to tell him I was quitting. And before I even opened my mouth, he said, "You're quitting." And I said, "Yes, I am." And
Oh.
and I asked him why he had hired me because I had been a top salesperson there. And he said, "Well, yeah, I could tell you were going to be great. I could tell you had absolutely no idea what you were talking about, but that you would be great." So I left there and thought, well, I'm a great salesperson. What else can I sell? So I
Mhm.
decided to look into selling wine, which I did for a while. And I was a top salesperson in that, selling to all kinds of hotels across the United States. But I
Wow.
don't actually even drink. So once again, I was using my imagination to to foster these sales. And at that point, I thought, well, what else could I sell? I'm not happy in this profession because it doesn't feel authentic to me. And I
Right.
love cars. So I went to a lot of high end car dealerships and I noticed one thing, which was that all the salespeople were men and all the support staff were women. I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to become a salesperson at a Porsche dealership because I'm
Mhm.
not going to do well here. And then I went into a real estate office and saw that all the salespeople were women, very few men,
Mhm.
and that I thought I could do this. I like this idea. So
Mhm.
I got my license, and my first month I made 6 sales, and I've been
Wow,
doing that
that's
ever since.
fast.
Yeah, and I've been doing that ever since 1998. So that's how I got
Wow.
into real estate.
That's amazing. I mean, I think a lot of us do a career pivot because either something fails, we get fired, we're burnt out. I mean, I had my own bookkeeping company for over 20 years and I was burnt out and
Mhm.
bored. And now I do this and I love it.
Yeah.
I
I
absolutely
think
love
the
it.
thing is, Joseph Campbell said, you've got to follow your bliss. And so for me, I've never given up theater, by the way. I'm still very actively involved in it, but it took me a very, very long time to get over realizing that less than 1% of people that are in that field are going to make enough money to
Mm,
actually sustain themselves on it. I
yeah.
actually taught at 3 universities and directed all over the place just to cobble a life together. And
Mhm.
you know, when you hit your 40s, you want to have a home, you want to have a base. You don't want to be sleeping on some board member's couch. You want to feel like you belong someplace. And so
Yes.
for me, acknowledging that I needed to do something to actually make money to live was a huge thing. It took me a little while to get there. And once I did get there, I realized I'm really doing a good thing here. I'm changing my communities one
Mhm.
person at a time. I actually am a very political person. And so for me, engaging in real estate is actually kind of a political act because I'm having a very active role in shaping how my community shapes up. I'm
Mm,
also very active. I've been on the board of directors of the association for over 17 years, so I have an effect there. I'm on the political action committee, so when they're voting on stupid things that are going to wreck real estate for everybody that owns property, I'm there.
thank
Um,
you.
yeah, and I'm on the board of directors of the multiple listing service, which is where I was
Mhm.
earlier this morning. You know, because I'm trying to protect real estate for clients and for other realtors.
Mhm.
So I'm very engaged in whatever it is that I'm doing. And I believe that your life is a totality. I don't
Mhm.
think you are what you do. I think everything you do is part of the metaphor and the story of your life. And so for
Mhm.
me, helping people to find a home or helping people to sell a home is part of my story, just as much as directing a production of Death of a Salesman might be. So
Hmm.
it's all one. It's not, they're not separate. You can't really compartmentalize yourself because you'll go crazy if you try to.
And I know that, since the pandemic, more and more people are working from home. And I think that one of the things that people might be looking for, homeowners that might be looking for, is a bedroom that they can turn into an office, or even just a desk area for people to just sit at and get stuff done, pay their bills or do their taxes or take care of the home. And having a dedicated bedroom or a dedicated den or a large enough dining area
Mhm.
to have that kind of office feel. I think all of us, once we put on that hat of managing a household or a business, is really important. And I think
Yeah.
that, making sure that somebody who's selling their home, they're also buying a home to replace what they're missing out of that, whether it's entertaining or family or aging in place or whatever it is. It's really important that you're selling for the right reasons, for the right timing, for the right political forecast, whatever that's right rates. All of that
Right.
comes into place. Wow.
Right.
So what do you think the trends are in the Bay Area market right now? Like, what are the current conditions?
Yeah, the current conditions. One of the things that's really interesting when the pandemic hit, people realized that they needed discrete spaces for work.
Mm,
They couldn't, a lot of the vision that a lot of people had about a really open area, that would be like your dining room, living room, kitchen, family room combination, that became really not as useful. And we noticed this before, right after 9/11. People had been buying lots of lofty type spaces, but then all of a sudden they wanted more traditional homes with
mm,
discrete spaces. So, housing actually follows what's going on historically too, in terms of the design elements in that house. So what I'm noticing a lot of, and I can speak to both economic trends and to just what I see visually when I'm going into houses or working on houses myself to get them ready for the market. Economically, what we have is a continuation in my area. I don't know how it plays out for the rest of the country, but in my area, we have 37% less inventory than we should have. There is not affordable housing. Median
right.
house prices are crazy. Where I live in Berkeley, California, the median house price is 1.2 million.
Ugh.
In Oakland, California, the median house price at this point is a staggering $1 million. I used to sell these homes for $100,000, by the way, when I
Oh my
first started out.
gosh.
Yeah. So
Seriously?
seriously,
So these
so
homes that, I mean, you could have bought a house for 100 grand and now they're worth
mhm.
1 million.
Yeah,
Oh
when I
my.
was when I was a little kid, and we moved from Berkeley, California to New York City,
Mhm.
I remember a party, and this was in the 1960s, and a woman came up to my mother and said, "Oh my Lord, you did so incredibly well. No one will ever see these prices again." And we sold that house for $67,000. Take a guess what it sold for, changing hands 7 years ago.
I don't know, over 1 million.
$3.2 million.
Oh my.
So that's the thing. But also, when I was a child, you could also buy an apple for 5 cents.
That's
But
true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
inflation is a very powerful thing, and we are all experiencing it in all of our lives. So,
Yeah,
in
I
any
mean,
case,
I live in Sacramento, and there are new builds going up all the
mhm,
time. They just finished an apartment building, maybe a month or two, maybe 2 months ago, and it's already full.
mhm,
And a
mhm,
lot of people from the Bay Area are coming here.
because
And
it's less expensive. Yes.
yeah, but it's getting to be more expensive. And
Yeah.
um, people who in the Bay Area, from what I'm hearing, is that they want to move closer to Sacramento, but they can't because they can't sell their house.
There are a lot of house sales actually happening in the Bay Area.
Hmm.
Overpricing is the kiss of death. So we're
Yes.
seeing prices go down. We're seeing people pricing houses lower. One of
Mm.
the things that's going on a lot is that a lot of people like me refinance when they could get a loan at 2.65%.
Right.
Those older people who have those loans are not going to move. They're going to age in place. They're going to get home health care when they need it. They're going to put in elevators. They're going to create ways for them to stay where they are, which honestly is better for them just psychologically in many ways.
Oh
It's
yeah.
been proven that people who stay in
Mhm.
their homes actually mentally do better than people who
Yes.
don't. But the
Yes.
point is that a lot of inventory that would have ordinarily be coming on the market is not coming on the market. And because of
Right.
that, and because we live in such a finite little fishbowl here in the Inner East Bay, there you can't just build another house. There isn't a lot for it.
Right.
So because of that, prices stay constant. And
Mhm.
interest rates briefly went down to below 6% in the recent past. But
Mhm.
now, with inflationary worries because of the stupid war
What's
in the Middle East,
what's
um,
going on in the world?
yeah, um, because of the stupidity that's going to make oil prices go up, what have you, people are worried about inflation. Because they're worried about inflation, interest rates on loans go up. So now, a mortgage today that would have cost you 5.75 last week literally will cost you 6.35%. So that's another thing that is controlling the market in many ways. You've got a lot of people priced out of the market because they simply cannot afford to get a mortgage. So there are conflicting elements, and there's a great volatility in the market right now. It's still an
Mhm.
okay time to sell a house because of the lack of inventory. But what we're seeing a little bit more of than we normally do is people that are literally moving out of the area to find a
Mhm.
cheaper life
Yeah.
than people moving in. So there's more exiting than coming in right at this exact
Mhm.
moment in time. And that all of that affects everything. I mean, I feel like it's like the butterfly effect. Something happens over in Kuwait, it's going to affect us in Berkeley, California. It just is going to. And the world is such a small place now, and it is such a global thing that you have to pay attention to all that, especially as a realtor. You need to read the newspapers. You need to know what's going on. You need to be informed, because it will affect your livelihood if you don't. So,
Yeah. So what about like switching gears a little bit, sustainability and smart home features. I know that a lot of companies are going more towards being more eco-friendly
mhm.
and doing smart technologies. I mean, even just getting a thermostat that can adjust your temperature when you're not home, that helps too. So, what do you think some of the how do those eco-friendly smart devices affect the home value itself?
Oh, they definitely bring the value up because people, especially in my area is extremely political, extremely concerned about ecology, extremely concerned about energy conservation, and they vote on a lot of things that have to do with that. So any sort of smart features are very useful. People love solar panels. Our energy costs are so through the roof that it's important to actually be thinking about solar. Our
Mhm.
area actually has legislation that has to do with using gas appliances, and so people are putting in, you know, eco-friendly sorts of appliances at this point that are not utilizing gas. They're running pretty much whole kitchens on electricity,
Mhm.
which then, if it's supplied by your solar panels, is a wonderful thing. As far as, there are all kinds of different sorts of smart home devices that are kind of important. And they also help people who are mobility challenged in many ways, or sight challenged, or what have you. So, a lot of these people who are staying in place, a lot of these home features actually are really good for older people in their
Mhm.
home. I mean, if you can clap and turn on all your lights, that's a great thing. If you can, if you know,
I remember that clap on, clap off.
Right,
commercial. That
right.
was
And it
awesome.
seemed like a joke, but it actually really works. And also being
Mhm.
able to monitor, there's a lot, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of crime and there's a lot of property crime, which always
Mhm.
happens when you have a really big discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots. That's just the way that it
Yes.
is. And so a lot of people have ring doorbells or that are watching everything that goes on. A lot of
Mhm.
people have we have to think about that a lot when we're actually selling houses because the sellers can actually hear every single thing you're saying while you're walking through the house,
Yeah.
which is good for monitoring stuff and good for them. It's a sad statement about our society, but it just is the way that it is. Once again, my little Berkeley childhood, everybody left their doors open
Oh,
when
yeah.
I was a kid. Now,
100%.
now,
You
you've got three
can't.
locks and you've got a security system. Very different world we're living in.
Mhm. So, what are some marketing strategies that work, such as maybe professional staging or photography, digital marketing? Like, what really stands out to a home buyer when they're looking to buy a home?
Well, first off, unbelievably, a large portion of the buyers out there they're not Gen Z. I mean, or they are Gen Z. They're not Gen X. They're not boomers, although there are a lot of boomers that are selling. There are a lot of boomers that are downsizing. But it
Mhm.
is Gen Z that is now a prime marketplace for at least the Bay Area.
Mhm.
And so for them, they sit in their homes in their watching on their computers. So everything has to look really amazing online because
Right.
everything is online. Print media is basically useless. It
Mhm.
decorates lobbies of real estate offices. Older people like them, but most people get 100% of their information online. And all
Mhm.
of the print ads actually have concomitant um, they have an equivalent online. So if you buy an ad in the San Francisco Chronicle, you're actually going to be on SF Gate. If you
Mhm.
buy an ad in Luxury Home Magazine, you're actually going to be on their Luxury Home Magazine online. So most people are buying those sorts of ads. Staging in our area is absolutely de rigueur. People all do it. It
Mhm.
almost doesn't matter what price point you're at. Everything is staged. And staging can be very expensive. I have a gorgeous house that's on the market right now at 150 Vicente in Berkeley. And the sellers opted to do a partial stage because the full stage that we got for that 4,000 plus square foot home would have cost more than $25,000.
Oh my gosh.
So I applaud them for not thinking they needed to stage every nook and cranny in the place because that was ridiculous.
Mhm.
And it looks great. The stagers did do a wonderful job. You can look it up
Mhm.
online; it's there. Um, but what I would say is that making sure that your photography is beautiful, that you're not
Mhm.
leaving a toilet seat up or, having personal items around. If you can't afford to stage, at least pare down everything that you have and make it incredibly minimalist in the house because
Mhm.
that will show off the property itself a lot better. But
Yeah.
staging is really your best friend in the situation because not a lot of people have a lot of imagination as to how to use these spaces. A lot of
Mhm.
more modern architecture is unclear as to how the space should be used. So what the stager is doing is giving a blueprint for the person as to, oh, if I lived here, I would live like this in this house. And that's
Mhm.
actually comforting and good. And
Mhm.
virtual staging can be good. And during the pandemic, we all did it. But the reality is that you want to entice people to come and sit in the living room of the house when they're discussing the house, when they've come to look at the property. You want them to feel comfortable in that place.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
making sure that the heat is turned on so that it's not freezing when you come in. All the lights are
Mhm.
beautiful and on. Sometimes, you can put a little bit of music on for a little bit of ambiance. Nothing to, not the Beastie Boys, but
Oh, come on, the Beastie Boys are awesome.
there are things that you can do to set the mood for the house and it will and gear whatever it is you're doing towards who is going to buy that house. If the house is a very modern condo in Emeryville that is right near the Emery Bart, what have you, you're probably going to attract a young tech person who actually works in San Francisco. So stage according to what a young person would like in that place. If the house is like a traditional 4,000 square foot trophy home, you're going to be getting somebody who's that's not going to be their first house. That's going to be their second house or their third house. So
Mhm.
stage a little bit more towards the person that probably has a large stock portfolio, that probably is a little bit older, makes slightly different choices in life. Make sure that whatever you do fits the tone of the property. Also, if it's a craftsman, stage that in a way that works for a craftsman bungalow. They're very different than mid-century modern houses.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting to me is when younger people want a mid-century modern, they don't really want a mid-century modern. I'm
Right.
personally a mid-century modern, and I can tell you that it was all Formica tabletops, avocado green appliances.
Don't
Their
forget the
idea,
shag carpet.
yeah, exactly. Their idea of what mid-century is actually not what mid-century was. So you have to be thinking in terms of what will appeal to this group of buyers. You need to always be aware of who the end user actually is. And this goes back to me talking about theater, because everything you do in theater is geared towards who your audience is, right?
I never thought about like that. Like when I think about a realtor staging a home, you're just selling the home and just attracting people who like other realtors who have a buyer for that specific home, but not the person itself, not the client itself. I never thought about it like that. Hmm.
Well, think about the word staging.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
theater. It's not real. Nobody lives like that. There is not a single person who lives like a staged house looks. But everybody walks in that front door and wants to be the person that would live in that house. That's the
Yes.
thing. What you were
Yes.
doing is you were selling the fantasy of how
Hmm.
they would be if they lived in that house. And people forget that.
Yeah. And so, what are some practical tips on like navigating financing and making competitive offers?
Yeah. When I work with a buyer, I do a comparative market analysis for every
Okay.
single buyer every time they're going to write an offer on something. And I do this, by the way, for my sellers before I go on the market 2 or 3 times. And then
Mhm.
sometimes during the course of the listing, if I need to course correct and I'm needing to change the pricing, I do that comparative market analysis because that is going to be real. Data is real.
Right.
You can
Numbers
want all the
don't
money in the
lie.
world, but but if you're not working within the framework of real data, then you're in fantasy land. And
Mhm.
so honestly, um when you're working with a buyer, and usually buyers, it's sort of like they're tentative on their first offer. And in our
Right.
area, usually it's going to take you 3 or 4 offers to actually get a place. The
Mhm.
buyers that are decisive and realize what they have to do in order to get something and come in strong, they're the ones that are going to get it. If you come in tentatively, hoping against hope, that you'll get it at that price. Now, our area does a horrible thing, which I don't know if they do it in your area, but in our area, people underprice grotesquely. So you can actually go to a listing that is put on the market for $899,000,
Mhm.
whereas the expectation on the seller's part is for 1,300,000.
Yeah, I
And
don't think, well, at least one of my realtor friends, she pretty much, I mean, she does the comparative marketing area and she prices the property based on what it's actually worth, not undercutting.
I'm like your friend. I
Mhm.
think this is a terrible practice. I hate it. The problem
Mhm.
is, if you try to really buck the trend, you might just sit on the market a lot longer. If your house is listed for 1,000,001 and somebody comes on the market a block away for 899, and it's the
Mhm.
same size house and
Mhm.
the same buyer is going to look at both houses, they're going to think you're overpriced and you're going to sit there. But what I do is, in that comparative market analysis, when I'm working with a seller, I give them the lowest comp and the highest comp and everything in between. I tell them that you're likely to get to this middle point here. You'll be very
Mhm.
lucky if you get the really high point. Would you be
Mhm.
willing to go on at this lower price?
Mhm.
And if they do, then that's where we go on at. But
Yeah.
sometimes the seller can't. Like I have some clients who bought a property for 1,150,000 3 years ago. Actually, not 3 years ago, 2021, which is already 5 years ago now. Wait,
Oh my goodness.
uh, 2021, for those of you not informed, was the biggest real estate year ever. I
Yeah.
normally sell about 60 properties a year myself. And normally that's around 60 to 70 million dollars. In 2021, I sold 60 properties and that was
Mhm.
112 million, which gives you an
Yeah.
idea of the price differential. So 2021 was unbelievable prices and everybody wants those prices and they still think those prices are the prices that are out there. Then 2022, it was good at the beginning of the year, started to go down, really went down in 2023, 2024, and 2025. Started the
Mhm.
year well good this year. We're still not back to those 2021 prices, by the way.
Right.
So and people, because we all basically lost 5 years due to the pandemic, people are still thinking that it's 2021 in terms of the prices if they're sellers, and if they're buyers, they're thinking it's 2025 because they saw their friends getting pretty interesting bargains. And the second you truly overprice something, then you're going to be doing something called chasing the market down. So
Mhm.
if you start out way too high, then you're going to have a price reduction. You're going to have another price reduction, and you're probably going to end up selling for about 10 to 15% below where you would have sold if you had priced it right to begin with. That's a bad way to go, obviously.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's like chasing those Pokemon things, going from
Mhm.
parking lot to parking lot. That was a big thing a few years ago.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah. So, what do you think the future of real estate is? I mean, I know that we kind of touched on aging in place.
Mhm.
My mom is, on the verge of aging in place. I'm building an ADU in my backyard
Mhm.
so that I can stay close to her. I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think that it's pretty relevant in building tiny homes or extra structures in your area?
Oh, absolutely. They've been loosening up ADU regulations. In my area, we have a lot of serious hills that have grades that make it very, very hard for people to build additional properties on.
Hmm.
But if you don't, if it's a great thing to build an ADU, and they're making it very, very easy for people to build them. They cost a lot of money. I mean, you're going to be spending in my area, you're going to be spending around $150,000 or more to build a really viable ADU. You know, there are
Hmm.
wee houses and things like that, but if you want a place that somebody can actually live in, it's going to cost that much. Now, there are a lot of garage conversions that are going on when people have outdoor parking spaces, so they don't have to use their garage. Those
Hmm.
can be a little less expensive because you're dealing with an existing structure at that point,
Right.
and
Hmm.
modifying it. But that's a big trend, and I think that's you're going to see a lot more of that as time goes by. We are seriously down. I heard something crazy like we are without 700,000 um, viable living spaces for people in the
Yeah.
state of California.
Yeah.
So
Just
that's
in
a lot of
California.
houses.
And there are tiny home villages popping up all over. I know that Colorado just put in 100 units last year. Atlanta has some. I know that Florida is coming up, and these tiny home villages are popping up where there is land because they are
Right.
inexpensive to build. And also creating these housing solutions for the homeless. I mean, there is
Exactly.
not enough funding
That's where I've seen
for
most of it here.
yeah, there's not enough funding for shelters. And I mean, just in my area alone, there are so many empty buildings. It's like, why don't you just build, a homeless shelter there or tiny homes or something? And they're just sitting there taking up space. It's just Ugh, it just drives
Well, I
me
mean,
bonkers.
that is a subject for we could talk all day long about the
Yeah,
homeless
yeah.
and what's going on. I mean, it's literally criminal, and it's really
Mhm,
sad to me that the lack of empathy in our government is such that they allow this to even continue. It's a
mhm.
source of incredible amounts of crime, incredible amounts of sadness, incredible amounts of pain, and bad health, and creates tons of
Mhm.
garbage, tons of problems for people that are just trying to navigate through the streets in my cities.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, every time I get a chance, I advocate for housing
yes.
solutions for the homeless and bathing stations for the homeless and what have you,
Mhm,
because until we create a society that people can actually afford to live in, you have to take care of these people. It's
mhm.
just the right thing to do.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm sure that we could do a whole podcast just on housing solutions for the homeless.
Yeah. And,
Um,
it's my area is particularly blighted with more and more homeless people because
yeah.
we have a lot of programs and
Mhm,
ways in which homeless people can access food and temporary shelters and things like that
mhm.
in my area, which is fantastic. But it really is a problem that needs a genuine solution and one that has empathy and goodwill towards our fellow man.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can only do our part.
Mhm.
Last question. Um,
Okay.
how do you balance your personal passions with your professional successes? Like, can you share a story from like the stage to real estate world and how staying creative sustains your motivation?
Well, one thing that I have going for me is that I'm really old. I'm
Oh, you're not
69.
old.
and and the thing about that though is when you get to be my age, you stop caring so much what other people think. One of the
Mhm,
saddest things about youth is that young people don't realize how beautiful, wonderful, brilliant, and amazing they are, and how no one cares if they have a zit on their nose. No one cares if they aren't exactly dressed properly. No one
mhm.
cares. You When you get to the point where you realize no one cares and that all you can do is the best you can do, it frees you up so profoundly. And the other
Yeah.
thing is that I never had children, and so a whole bunch of my life that I was able to focus on other things like theater, like my animal rescue, what have you.
Mhm.
I am always in awe of parents, because I had that time and I noticed that parents don't. Not only that, they don't get any sleep. So they're always walking around half exhausted. Um,
Yes.
because of that, I have been able to live my life fully, frankly. And I also
Mhm.
think that if you don't follow your passions and if you don't have something that really excites you outside of your work, whether it be skiing or
Mhm.
travel or theater or playing a musical instrument or writing a book or reading a book. If you
Mhm.
don't take the time to do those things for yourself, you will be no good to other people because you will not
That's
know
true.
what's important. I would say that for me, in real estate, the most important part of what I bring to my work is my authentic self. And if you
Mhm.
are just a workaholic lunatic, you will never figure out what that authentic self is, and you won't get your best fit customers. And if you don't get your best fit customers, you will be unhappy, and they
Yeah.
will know that. So,
Yes.
it's a what's that, catch 22. If you don't pursue your dreams, you
Mhm.
won't be able to be successful. You just won't. It's just the way that
Yeah.
it is.
I mean, it's that work-life balance that I think that all of us have really reevaluated since the pandemic, like how important it is to be with family. I've been a single parent since day one, and
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to work part-time and work while my son was in school. I've never missed a play. I've never missed a lunch. I've never missed a holiday. I've never missed anything. And
Yeah.
now that he's 20,
Mhm.
I did start traveling outside of the country over the last couple of years. And looking back on just the last 5 or 6 years, um, my passion was to be a single mom and be able to do like weekend getaways or going to the gym or spending time with
Mhm.
friends because that's what I could do with my, limited time to myself. And now, I mean, I get to have more of that work life balance. And I've never believed in the 40-hour work week. I think it's ridiculous
Mhm.
because I mean, there are studies out there that a full-time worker actually only works about 5 or 6 hours a day, anyways. And what are they doing for the extra 2 hours? And it's like, if you give somebody a shorter timeline, they're going to work faster to get all their work.
I think that's true. But the other thing is, if you are genuinely passionate about whatever it is you're doing, you won't
Yes.
mind it. I mean, I work 100 hours a week sometimes, and I'm
Mhm.
fine with it because
Yeah.
I'm happy. And I
Yeah.
don't need, so if I'm
Right.
happy, don't question it. Just go for it. If you're
Yes.
not happy, then change it. You got to change it if you're
Yes.
not happy, because
Yeah.
happiness is one of those things. What is that? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what we're all here for.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. I mean, my happiness is going down the rabbit hole of Google to find out my next vacation.
There you
That's
go. There
that's
you
my
go.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, again, Andrea, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy 100-hour weeks to come on and talk to us. And I really, the journey from theater to real estate was just, I can see how it's interwoven and highlighting the importance of client focus. Trends like sustainable design, smart home technology, and thoughtful community engagement with your passion product projects are transforming the Bay Area homes and boosting property values. It's not just about the money, it's how much time are you actually spending at home and the value you get in um, investing time in creating a place where you can work, play, or just entertain. You can find out more about Andrea and upcoming events by subscribing to the Home Expo podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. And of course, we will have links down below for how you can get a hold of Andrea and she can share her stories and expertise and tips on all things buying and selling a home. And again, Andrea, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We're
Oh, you are
so
delightful.
happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so happy that we're able to join us. And we look forward to speaking with you again in the future. So thank
Excellent.
you
Thank
to our
you.
listeners. Remember to subscribe, like, share, all the things. And we'll see you next time on the podcast. Bye.